Hi, I am so excited to connect with you. My name is Elise Quilson, and I am really passionate about helping freelancers create consistent income in their businesses while only working 20 hours a week. And here's the deal. I am giving you this very special training, this very special look at how I personally was able to do this in my own freelancing business. And so while I help all kinds of freelancers doing all different kinds of things, you're watching this video because you want to learn and know how I was able to take something like content repurposing and make that the core thing that I offered and delivered to my different people and make consistent income in my business. So stay tuned. I'm going to be sharing all of those nitty gritty details with you. And, I hope you love it as much as I do. All right, so here we go. How to make 5K plus per month repurposing content. And I mean, if you end up not loving content repurposing as much as I do, I won't hold it against you. But I personally think as a social media manager, this is one of the best ways that you can serve your clients. And it ultimately ends up helping you and your client in the long run to create content that you can't help but sound like your clients. Okay. So before we do anything else, who the heck am I? Well, my name is Elise Colson, and I am a business owner who has been running her own business actually for the last 4 years. So I live in Denver, Colorado with my husband and my 3 kids, as pictured in this adorable picture over here. And in my former life, I was an educator. I was a teacher for 6 years, and then I stepped into a school admin position that allowed me to be an instructional coach to teachers and to help create the content and the curriculum for the entire school, which was so fun, and to put together and be the assessment coordinator for the school. And while I really loved it, I decided in May of 2018 to start my own business as a virtual assistant. And a lot of that had to do with this very cute and adorable little girl here in this picture. I was on maternity leave with her and realizing that I wanted to be able to see my kids more. And so for as much as I loved my job and what I was doing and felt like I was actually making a difference, I wasn't actually getting to be with the people that I had dreamed and prayed for so hard. And so I started this whole freelancing business owning thing. And I actually didn't get my first job until the fall of 2018. So I started my business in May, and I didn't get my first job until the fall. And it was actually a barter system, which was a terrible decision on my part. She was a branding photographer who lived across the country. And so she couldn't actually take branding photos for me. But I didn't know it at the time. It also turns out that I am a terrible website designer. That is not my zone of genius. And so that was my first job, and it was terrible. But I actually landed my first retainer client in December of 2018. And I was only making $150 a month working for this woman. But I loved her and she was amazing. And we ended up working together for about a year, and she decided to make this huge pivot in her business. And that's why our relationship ended, but we are still very close to this day. And it was actually through working with her that helped me really figure out who my ideal clients were, but also figure out what this entire process for repurposing content even looks like. So while I was working to gain clients, because I was still working at my 9 to 5 at this point, my husband is also a teacher, and we have 3 children, which is not a cheap endeavor. And so I couldn't just quit my job and start doing this freelancing thing because that's what my heart desired. I actually had to replace my full-time income, and that was quite a significant amount for us. And so through the first half of 2019, so about by the time I hit my 1 year anniversary of owning my business, I was still struggling a lot. And it wasn't until that summer that I really started gaining traction in my business. And I was landing all of these different clients and things were going really well. And it was actually starting to get a little scary because I had 9 clients and I was reaching my energetic max and yet was still significantly below my income max. And the other problem that we don't really talk about is the fact that I had 9 clients, sure. But if you've ever tried to manage 9 clients, it's a lot. It's very difficult and to manage that many clients at one time and really provide this amazing client experience for them. And so ultimately in December of 2019, I ended up losing 2/3 of them in the matter of a month. And I just like, I felt so lost and wasn't even really sure what I wanted to do with my business and if I even wanted to run a business. Like I was kind of at the point where I was like, screw it. I'm just going to throw in the towel. I'm going to keep doing this education stuff because I'm good at it and suck it up and know that like maybe I'll get to see my kids, on the weekends and maybe during the summer. Um, but I didn't. I did not throw in the towel. I transitioned into offering content management in January of 2020. And all of this ended up leading to building the Sustainable Business Collective. And within the Sustainable Business Collective, I really believe that as moms, we can run a business and we can run a family and we can still have time for ourselves. And it doesn't have to be a sacrifice in any sort of direction, at least not all at the same time, and not for an extended period of time. And really, the first step in creating the sustainable business is having a service or a very select set of services that you make that you become an expert in and allow you to charge high dollar. And that's what I did with content repurposing. And that's what I'm going to talk to you about because I didn't just go in, I was never just a social media manager. We were taking a look at all of my clients' content and figuring out how to utilize it and bring the most out of it that we possibly could. Okay. So when we think about content repurposing, what comes to mind? What are you thinking about when you think about content repurposing? And on a scale of 1 to 5, how comfortable do you feel repurposing somebody's content? Okay. And if you have this question of like, why would a client want to repurpose content? Isn't that like less creative than creating their own piece of content? I want to help shift that mindset just a little bit. Okay. So some common objections that you might get from clients or that I've seen before is like feeling like it's cheating. Like if you're repurposing content, a lot of what we end up thinking is like reusing content, posting the same thing from Facebook over to Instagram. And while there's really nothing wrong with that, that's not really repurposing the content, that's just reusing it. And one of the other big objections that I have heard and seen is that people think that their audience is going to get really annoyed and stop reading their content or consuming their content if they're hearing the same thing over and over and over again. And I want to be here and I want to share this with you that like, that's just not true. People need to consume the same message several times. I mean, the number is spanned from like 7 all the way up to like 21 times before they'll actually buy from somebody. And so if you have this client and they're only posting content once or twice a week, it's going to take several weeks before somebody actually signs on with them. Whereas if they create one core piece of content, you can take that core larger piece of content and you can repurpose it into many different types of content, helping to spread the same message. Okay. And so within the framework that I created, we are first figuring out the strategy. It is so important that you sit down with your clients and you figure out what the content strategy needs to be. Why are they wanting to show up on all of the different platforms that they want to show up on? And then the next piece is planning it all out. Who is creating what pieces of content? How are things getting approved? Having a central location where you're communicating those things. And then the last step is actually the repurposing of the content. And as I did this as a content manager, I wasn't just creating the posts, I was also helping my clients to post them onto social media and create the graphics and do the hashtag research, because I wanted to make sure that I was taking everything off of their plate, not just one piece of it. I wanted my clients to be incredibly successful because their success is also my success. Okay. And so repurposing content is a vehicle to get their message out into the world. It's not just taking content and reposting it at a later date or the same date or on different platforms. Your clients need a plan for their content. What is the journey that we're taking people on? And leading these conversations will actually make you the content specialist of their business. And that is the thing that allows you to charge more money because you are the one driving the ship. Okay. So that first piece is content strategy. And this is the piece that I find that people struggle with the most, my social media managers. But in reality, you're already doing some of this. Okay. We want to figure out why they're showing up and what the purpose of showing up in each of the different places, whether it's a blog or a newsletter or a YouTube channel or Pinterest or Facebook or wherever they're putting out content. And we're not just talking about social media anymore. We're talking about all of the different places that they might interact with their ideal clients. Okay. And we know that they are starting to get really overwhelmed because they feel like they have to be on every single social media platform and emailing their list and putting out a blog and a podcast. And that's just not realistic. And so what we are doing is we are taking a lot of that off their hands so that they are identifying one specific place where they're going to show up. And we want it to be a larger piece of content. YouTube videos, podcasts are two of, or like a live video inside of their Facebook group. Those are really great places to have them produce their largest piece of content that you can then repurpose into other places. And ideally, you want it to be there where their warmest audience is. Okay. And then you figure out where the other places are that they want to be showing up. Because ideally, you're not trying to sell from every single platform. Your audience is not the same in every single platform, and they're not at the same level of knowing you. And so we don't want the content to be exactly the same, asking the potential clients to be doing the same. And you have to know that as the content strategist. You have to know and be able to direct the conversation that showing up over on Instagram is actually meant to pull them into their Facebook group. And so we don't have to try and sell to them over on Instagram. The biggest thing that we need to do is try and pull them into the Facebook group. Okay. The next step is to create the content plan. And so you'll have to figure out with your client how you're going to communicate the plan, how often you're writing and creating content, how you're going to gain approval for posts. Do you need a third-party app? Whatever it is. And then you're going to need to meet with your clients to decide how much content they're going to create, how much content you're creating, who's scheduling out posts, what the deadlines are. There's a lot of things to take into consideration when putting this content plan together. And the more you can communicate and have several different steps of communication, the more successful you all will be. And then the last piece is actually repurposing the content. So from the content plan, you're going to know exactly what pieces of content you're taking and turning into other pieces of content. And so I have listed here a couple of different ways that you can repurpose content. So you can be taking live videos that they've done in their Facebook group and turning them into written social media posts. You can turn them into video social media posts. It can become a blog. It can become an email. It can become all of those things. It can be, you can take your podcast episodes, and especially if they're video recorded, put them over on YouTube. You can take your blog posts and turn them into social media posts. And so once you've created the content, depending on what's been decided, you can then create the graphics and submit them for approval. And then after approval, you schedule them out. And this actually allows you as well to not have to be in it every single day. My client experience and the way that I did this with my clients is that we would hop on a discovery call after I'd vetted them through using the pre-questionnaire to make sure that everything was a good fit. But to be completely honest, if we got on a discovery call, 9 times out of 10, it was a yes. And we already knew. It was mostly just to see if our personalities clicked. Then I would send them out some onboarding information, have a content strategy meeting to determine the funnel for social media, their ideal clients' fears, pains, and goals, because that's really what's important to be pulling out of the content, planning out the content for the next month. And then I would put together the finalized calendar and send it over to the client. And then each week I would create weekly content and send it over for approval. I did all of this in Asana. It was the easiest tool for me to use, but that is just one option. And then I would schedule it out. And that way I was taking it all off of my client's plate. They just had to worry about the engagement piece and really making sure that they were getting to know the people who were interacting with their content. Some tips for repurposing content. Oh, too fast. You need to know your ideal clients' ideal clients inside and out. You need to know what their fears, pains, and goals are. You need to be really familiar with your clients' programs and what they're going to be selling. That's going to help you to dictate and let them know what you feel like is the best course of action with the content you're putting out. Make sure that all of your content has a call to action. Pull out the main points from the original content and expand upon them. It's not just a transcription. We are not just reposting from one platform to another. We are creating a new piece of content, but we are using the words and the ideas from the original piece of content. And you also want to keep in mind the platform you're repurposing to. It's all about creating this cohesive message across platforms so that people are really getting it, and it makes them much more ready to buy and to buy more quickly. So what does this look like for you? You need to figure out what platforms you are most comfortable with, because that's going to determine how you help your clients, what additional skill set you might need, and what kind of content you'll be repurposing. So if you want to specialize in helping people with podcasts, then that is part of what you are specializing in. You might want to learn how to do some audio editing so you can be the podcast manager and help with repurposing their content. Okay. And so these are just some of the sorts of posts to look for when you're looking for different job ups, because even now there are people who are saying like they want help with repurposing content. They still don't necessarily know that they also need help with the strategy piece and putting the plan together. And so when you see people mention that they are looking for a social media manager, or people who are saying that they're feeling frustrated or overwhelmed with content, people who are looking for video editors, or I mean, if they're looking for somebody who repurposes content, then of course that's what you're going to apply for. But these are some of the topics that people will ask about, and you can use content repurposing to be the thing that solves the problem. So this is great, but what's next? You can do some practice. You realistically can grab any piece of content that's out in the social media world and repurpose it for somebody and ask them for feedback. You can figure out your own process, or you can work with me to help you refine your systems, your packaging, and your messaging. And so I have this really great thing that I created called the Content Repurposing Mini Course that is essentially teaching you this 3-step proven framework. I'm breaking it down for you. I'm teaching it to you step by step. And then I'm not just sharing it with you how to do it, but there's actionable steps in every single video, every single lesson, so that you can actually get the practice of doing the thing with feedback from me, so that you feel confident once you finish the content repurposing mini course to go out and find clients. You also, there are 3 different modules. And so we're going to be walking through the entire framework so that you feel really comfortable doing that. But there's also an entire module where I'm helping you set up the back end part of running this part of your business. And so there are lessons on pricing yourself. There's lessons on creating your packages. And then I'm actually walking you through how to go and find actual clients who would use content repurposing to solve the problem that they have. Okay. And then I have all kinds of different bonuses, like how to create a portfolio when you don't have any clients, and how to track your data with your clients so that you can show them that you are actually getting them a return on what they're doing. And then I also give you a lesson on how to use an audit to get people onto calls with you versus just like a discovery call. And you can do all of this. You can join us in the mini course for $347. That is it. So be like my friend Melania. She joined me in September when I launched this as a beta course. And within the month that she was with us, she got a lot of practice and a lot of clarity on what she wanted to do. And she realized that she really wanted to hone in on SEO and helping people with SEO, not just on their websites, but also in their social media, and repurposing their blog content into their social media. So everything is really cohesive, but also has really strong SEO. And so she was able to gain and become fully booked out in her business within 2 months, which is amazing. And so you can actually start gaining clients right away before the summer is over. And you could be making 5K months before the summer is over, which is amazing. And so if that sounds like something you want to be doing, I highly encourage you to come and join me in the content repurposing mini course. I invite you to come do that. And I would be so pleased and so honored if you would come and join us. So go ahead and click the link below. And if you have any questions, I've also dropped my email below this video in case there's anything that you need any extra information about. It can be really scary to invest in our businesses. And so I want to make sure that you have all of the information.